Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the CAS 360 New Features webinar. My name is Shami, and I am one of the CAS 360 product managers, and I will be running the session today. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Firstly, let me start by saying thank you for taking the time to join us today. Today is a repeat of the user groups we conducted last week in person in New Zealand. Last week, we kicked off the sessions in Auckland and then went to Tauranga, Nelson, and finished up in Christchurch. It was a great week, and it was great to catch up with clients and show them what we have worked on over the last few months and over the last few releases. So today's webinar will cover some of those main points that we discussed in those user groups and the main new features we have released over the last few releases. And now, if you do have any questions, feel free to type in the Zoom Q&A section, and I will answer your questions as we go along. And I also have some team members monitoring your Q&As as well, and they'll be helping out with your questions as well. Let's start off with a quick introduction to our New Zealand team. So we had some changes over the year. So if you have been with us for a while, you would have already spoken to Ra and Kajal, who joined our team earlier this year. Ra is now your account manager. I'm sure most of you have spoken to him before. And we also have Kajal, who joined our team as a business development manager as well. I'm sure most of you have also met Sejal before. She is currently in the process of transitioning across to our Melbourne office. And we have Jess, who is currently away on maternity leave as well. So it's great to see some new additions to our team and our New Zealand team growing. All right, so let's have a look at what we are going to cover today. We will have a look at the latest CAS 360 new features we added in the last few releases. We will also have a look at some new improvements that we added to BGLiD and some exciting changes that we have coming up soon. And we will finish off the session with what we have lined up for 2025. And if you have any additional Q&As as well, I'll be able to go through them at the end of the session. All right, let's jump into new features. So we do have a huge list of new features and improvements that we implemented. So I have narrowed down the new features and all your wishlist requests that I want to go through today. We will mainly cover some improvements around comparison reports, improvements we made to dividend statements, some key changes around annual return workflow. We've separated into a few different sections there. So I'll cover the entire workflow and all the updates we made around annual returns. We made some changes to multiple director interests and your global contacts and addresses screens as well, based on your wishlist requests. We also have some changes that we made around your labels in CAS 360, and we'll finish off with some improvements that we introduced to the AML compliance workflow as well. So there is a lot to cover today just with the new features section. So let's jump right into it. So let's start off with CAS 360. Hope you can see my screen here. So let's start off with a quick, easy one. The first one we implemented was an export option to your comparison report. Now, this was requested in our last round of user groups that we did. Now, everyone knows what a comparison report is. The comparison report is where you compare your CAS 360 data against your company's office data. And there are a few different screens where you can trigger a comparison report in CAS 360. So let me pick up one of my test companies here. So to export your comparison report or prepare your comparison report, you can go into the options menu and then click on the compare button, and that will trigger a comparison report as at the current time. So this is comparing your CAS 360 data against your company's office data, and you'll see all the main data points. So you've got general details, addresses, your office holders, and your shareholders. And if you've got an ultimate holding company as well, you'll be able to view that information. So what most clients wanted was a report to display this comparison report. Instead of having it just on the screen, they'd prefer a report as well. So what we did was we've implemented an export button just at the bottom of the screen here. You're going to export to PDF, and that'll generate the comparison report in a PDF format. This way you'll be able to view the report and then also jump into the CAS 360 screens at the same time and go and rectify the errors that's been highlighted in the report. So any discrepancies will be displayed in red. So you'll be able to go back into CAS 360 and investigate why those errors are highlighted. So that's how you export the comparison report from your company selection screen. We've also implemented the same option in your annual return screen as well. So if you go into the annual return screen, pick up the same company, and right at the top here next to the options menu, you'll now see export comparison report. So if you click on that option there, it'll generate the comparison report in PDF format. Now, with annual returns, we always say make sure that your annual returns, your comparison status has passed before you process your annual return. So if it has failed, you should investigate further and see why it has failed. So exporting that report or preparing that comparison report as at the annual return preparation time is a good option to have as a part of the annual return process. Now, with the comparison reports, just to add on to just a key point here is the comparison report status here is basically your health check status. So the overnight checks that CAS 360 runs. So if you hover over it, you will be able to see that this check was completed at 7 o'clock in the morning. So if I hit the export button now and export the comparison report, that would be updated as at the current time. So for us, it's over here, it's 9 o'clock now. So your comparison report will be prepared as at now. So if there was any changes or updates to the company data between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, that information would be updated in your comparison report as well. So the data is always live when you process the compare button. Okay, so that was a quick one there, export of your comparison report. Next, let's jump into all the improvements that we made around dividend statements. Now, if you haven't had a look at dividend statements previously, I'll pick my same company. The dividends screens are inside your shareholders screen. So if you go into your shareholders tab, you'll see a new button here, dividends. We introduced dividends earlier this year. So if you haven't seen it, to add a dividend, you'll just click on the dividend button here, and then you have an add dividend option. Basically, you just need to follow the information on the screen and key in the details based on the data that you have received from your accountants, the lawyers, the company directors, and so on. So pretty straightforward. Let's just go through adding in a dividend. So date declared, dividend date would whatever declared date. So I'm just going to leave it as at today's date. If you're recording previous dividend information as well, you can set the year of your dividend as well. Next, you've got your share type. Share type is a simple drop-down menu that will show you the currently issued shares for that company. So you'll be able to see that there. And then it shows you the number of shares that's currently issued. And then here, you're able to select under amount type, you're able to select dividend per share or total dividend. So you're able to select, depending on the information you've received, the per share value or the total dividend, and CAS 360 will do the calculations for you. So just for the webinar today, I'll select dividend per share, and the dividend amount, you can just put in the per share value here. So let's say it's just $10 dividend per share. And then from there on, CAS 360 will do all the calculations as well. Your imputed credits, the resident withholding tax, and your net dividend also has been automatically calculated for you. If you need to adjust the dividend rate on the resident withholding tax, you simply select the drop-down menu and you have the options to update that. And based on the information, again, the calculations will get updated. Next, you have how your dividend was paid to the shareholder. So you've got paid in cash, credited to loan account, or you have an other option as well. And if you select other, you can key in that additional information as well. So I'll just set it as paid in cash. And then you've got your payment date and your payment currency that you can set as well. So that is how you would record a dividend. And then once you're ready, you can hit the save button. And then, or if you need to prepare the documents as well, you can click on save and prepare documents. So if you need to view the dividends that you have previously recorded for that company, again, under the dividends button, you have a review dividends section here. If you click on that, you'll be able to see your previous dividends that you have recorded. So I have one here that I previously recorded for 2024. If I go into prepare forms, you'll be able to see the dividend pack or the document pack that we prepare to process your dividend transactions. So CAS 360 adds in a dividend statement, creates your shareholder resolutions, and so on. As a part of wishlist request, we've now included a solvency certificate to the dividend document pack. So I'll bring up the document here. So a standard solvency certificate that is recorded, that can be signed by all directors of the company. Again, this wording is pretty straightforward. You're easily able to customize the wording of this document as well. So that's the solvency certificate that's now been included to your dividend pack. Again, that can also be digitally signed if you use any of your digital signing partners as well. The next item that we've added to the dividends is around IRD numbers. Now, the feedback that we receive from clients is a bit of a mix here. So with the dividend statements, if I preview my dividend statement here, with the IRD numbers, some clients prefer to display the IRD number on the statement. Some clients, for privacy reasons, just wanted a yes or a no for the IRD number. So if the IRD number is recorded in CAS 360, we would just display yes there. And if not, it'll display a no in your dividend statement. If you prefer to display the IRD number on the document, we have an option under dividend statements. Under the options menu, you can now toggle that option on, show IRD numbers for shareholders. And if you hit the save button, you'll now be able to display the dividend, the IRD number on your dividend statement as well. So again, if the feature is just hidden behind a toggle, so depending on your preference, you can select that option on. Another improvement we added to the dividend section is around the listing of dividends paid. So this report is basically a summary of all your shareholders and the number of shares that they hold, and the dividend calculations and the final gross dividend that's paid out to each one of your shareholders. Now, for this particular company, I only have 7 shareholders, so it's pretty straightforward. I can display this report in a nice little one-page PDF document. But if you do have lots of shareholders and this report goes into multiple pages, sometimes viewing the information might be a bit tricky. So clients requested an export option as well. So what we've now implemented is under the options menu, you do have the option to export this document to Word and Excel. So clients prefer to use the Excel option, so you can filter that report using the Excel filtering options as well. And the final improvement that we've added around dividends is we've now added the dividends to your company reports as well. If you jump into the reports and view your company reports, under the report settings section here, You now have a show dividend section, which you can toggle on, and you can export that report. So the company report is basically a snapshot of all the data that you have added into that specific company or recorded for CAS 360. So now you can include the dividend information in the company report as well. So we've got company details, all the addresses of the company, ultimate holding company, the office holders, shares, and then now you've got your dividend section as well. So that's your company report and dividends that's been included. If you haven't looked at the settings section as well, under the report settings, we have all these toggles available so you can show and hide the information you want in that company report. All right, let's have a look at the next new feature. The next one is all the changes we made around annual returns, and specifically the changes we made to the primary communication email. So over the last few releases, we've added a number of changes or minor changes across the annual return workflow. So what I'll do is I'll go through each one of those steps and explain why we've done those or added those changes to CAS 360. So the first thing to note is when filing an annual return to Companies Office, an email address is mandatory. Companies Office requires an email address so that they can use it as future communication or to send annual return reminders and so on. So previously, CAS 360 always used the authorized person's email address when you were filing that annual return. So when you were preparing an annual return and filing the annual return, CAS 360 automatically used the Realme login that's been linked to that company and used that email address and added that to the electronic file that was filed to Companies Office. Next step was we received feedback from clients saying they would like an admin email address or a different email address for the Companies Office reminders that Companies Office sends for those specific companies. So what we had to do in CAS 360 was to accommodate for those changes so that you have the option to send that mandatory email address to Companies Office, but also update if there is an incorrect email address, or if you want to update that email address for Companies Office communication, give you an option to update that email address as well. So step one, as a part of this workflow, the step one, what we did was we automatically imported your primary email address with Companies Office against all your companies. So this was done as a part of one of your CAS 360 releases. So if I go into my company, and under your general details section, under company context, you will now see an email address that's been automatically imported in, and it will say primary communication email, or it will say Companies Office communication email. So this email is the current email address that Companies Office has for this specific company, for BGL2 Limited. And this was the email address that was used when they filed the previous annual return for that company. So CAS 360 now has all those email addresses imported in, and it will be displayed under your general details section. So let's say that you need to change this email address, or you need to update this email address. You are now able to update that email address as a part of your annual return filing. So to do that, when you prepare your annual returns, and let's say for the current year or the next year, you need to go into your annual return screen and you process your annual return. When you go into your document screen, and you click on the lodge button to file that annual return, up comes this modal here that explains, asks you to select your authorized person. We've now included a new section just at the bottom here, asking you to check that email address. So CAS 360 will automatically pre-fill it with the primary communication email that you already have in your general details screen. However, if you want to update it, you can easily update it to any email address that you want. As I mentioned before, this is a mandatory email address, so you can't leave that empty as well. You can't clear it because CAS 360 will give you a validation error. So once you've added your or updated your email address and you hit the lodge button, the annual return will get filed as normal to company's office. And then also company's office going forward will use this email address to send any future communication with regards to this specific company or to send annual return reminders and so on. It'll use this new communication email address. If you have updated that email address and filed the annual return as well, CAS 360 will automatically update your general details screen as well, and it'll change that email address that we have here. So those are two quick changes. So the first one is CAS 360 automatically imported those email addresses into your general details screen. And if you need to update that email address, you can update it when you are filing your annual return for that specific company. The next step is we also included this mandatory email address as a part of your live check and your health checks for your companies. So for example, your checks that we do here, the little pass and failed or mismatched tags that you have now includes this primary email address. So if I delete this email address and hit the save button, CAS 360 will immediately do a check for me and tell me that there is a mismatch. And you're able to import that email address as well. So you will be, if you have deleted that email address, CAS 360 will remind you that a mandatory email is missing or it needs to be imported from company's office. So you can always import that email address. So that is the update to your live checks, and that's been added in now. And you'll also notice that it's been included in your health checks or your comparisons as well. So if I now hit the compare button, under the general details section, you'll be able to see that email address that's being compared against your CAS 360 and company's office database. Previously, we did have contact numbers and other internal email addresses as well, added as a part of the comparison report. So we've now removed those contact numbers and non-mandatory email address, and we've only included that company's office communication email address in your comparison reports and your health checks. And your final step as a part of this annual return changes that we did was we've now included validations in your bulk annual return lodgement process as well. So for those of you who use or prepare annual returns, multiple annual returns in one go, if you've selected multiple annual returns and you use the buttons at the top, you'll now see the validations for this communication email address as well. So for example, let's say I've selected two companies here, and I've already received approval from my client to file these annual returns directly. So if I hit the Lodge Annual Returns button here, and I'll select my authorized person, you'll be able to see this new email address validation modal that comes up. For all the companies that you have selected, you will now need to confirm that email address as well. So again, CAS 360 will pre-fill the email addresses, and you have the option to update it if you want, and then file those annual returns. So those are all the changes that we have made around the communication email address. While we're in the annual return screen, another improvement or a new feature that we added was the filter columns button to the annual return screen. So I'm sure most of you have seen the filter columns button in your company selection screen, where you're able to select the columns that you display in the company selection screen here. So clients requested this option being added to the annual return screen as well. So now in the annual return screen, you're able to select the columns that you would like to display. So the company name, the NZBN, and the comparison report status are already locked. So the mandatory columns will always display in the annual return screen, but you can clear the others and add new columns if you wanted to as well. Partner and manager options were requested by clients, especially for those clients who've linked partners and managers in the general details screen, wanted to see that in the annual return screen as well. And an important one was also the client reference number. If you have linked client reference numbers in CAS 360, before you process your annual return, you're able to view the client reference numbers as well. So you see your column there. And before you process the annual returns, you'll be able to cross-check the reference numbers as well. If you haven't used the reference number field in CAS 360, it is recorded in your company information screen. So you want to select the company and go into company information, add company info, and we have an option here called client data. And under client data, we have a reference field where you can key in your reference number. Now, unfortunately, there's no quick way of adding in your reference numbers into CAS 360. They're manual data entry fields. However, if you would like us to help you import your reference numbers, you can send it to us in a spreadsheet, perhaps the company names, all the NZBN numbers, and a column for your reference numbers, and send it across to the BGL support team or New Zealand team, and then we'll be able to get that imported into your database. If the reference number is added in CAS 360, when you file your annual return, that reference number also is sent across in your annual return electronic file to Companies Office as well. All right, so those are all the changes that we've added into or as a part of our annual return workflow. Let's have a look at the next feature. The next one are some improvements that we made to global contacts and global addresses screen. So as your CAS 360 database grows and as you add in more companies into your database or as you deactivate companies from your database, you would see your global contacts and your global addresses screen grow. Now, one thing to note is, let's say you are cleaning up your database or clearing your companies or deactivating your companies. When you deactivate a company from CAS 360, all the contacts that are linked to that company, your directors, your shareholders, or even if it's a trust and so on, the contacts will still remain in your global contacts database. And then if they're only linked to one company, they won't have any relationship. So you will have a few contacts that are floating that you will be able to, you can always go into your global contact screen and delete if you wanted to. So to handle these sort of scenarios, what we've done is we've added a new filter called Not in Use. So the Not in Use filter shows you all these contacts who are currently not linked to any companies or trusts or joint members or representatives in your CAS 360 database. So these are the ones that you can, if you would like to investigate why there isn't, why this contact is just floating or added into your CAS 360 database, you can investigate and then you can delete those if you want to clean up your database as well. So in my database here, you can see that I have 445 contacts that are not in use. So I can go into these contacts and see why I've added these in. Maybe I was halfway through a transaction and then I need to come back and now complete the transaction. Or maybe they were old transactions that are no longer linked to any companies and I can just go delete them as well. So you have a few options there. And we have the same option under global addresses as well. If you go into global addresses, you'll now be able to see the not in use filter here. So I have 105 here. If you go into not in use, you'll be able to see all these addresses that I've previously added or no longer linked to anyone in my CAS 360 database. While I'm in the global contact screen, let me quickly talk to you about the find matches option as well. If you are looking to clean up your database or, rectify some of those duplicate entries that you have in the database, the find matches option is a good one here. So the Find Matches screen will automatically show you all the contacts where you have a duplicate entry. Now, and CAS 360 will tell you if there is a relationship as well. So for example, in this scenario here, you can see that I have this specific joint shareholding, who is a shareholding joint member, who is a shareholder of this company, and also added as a has a relationship in the trust as well for this specific trust. So, and then I have the same person again, or same joint member record that's been added into my contact screen without any relationship as well. So here I can investigate and decide, okay, why do I have this second duplicate record? Do I need it? Or I can just hit the keep button here for my second record and then merge my first record into my second record as well, or which will clear this record from the CAS 360 database. So there are options that you can do, but be careful if you are trying to clean up the database, because there could be a reason that a duplicate entry was recorded. With the Find Matches as well, there are two options that you can filter by. There's match by name and address, and there's also an option to match by name only. So if you select match by name only, it'll show you the contact. If you have this same contact multiple times in your database, but also with different addresses. So for example, this one here, I have 2019 Pink Sticky Notes Limited. I have the same company multiple times in my database, but you'll notice that there are 3 different addresses. So this is again where you'll need to investigate why there are different addresses, and if they are linked to different or have different relationships, you'll need to go check why those various relationships are and linked to different companies. And you might be able to go back and, update the Companies Office website if you have to, and then import those companies again, and so on. So there are multiple reasons a duplicate entry can be created. We've seen lots of clients coming back with scenarios where you've got the same director as, let's say the same person as a director of one company and the same person as a shareholder of that same company. However, maybe the shareholder has a middle name and the director does not have a middle name. So as a result of that, when you're importing the data into CAS 360, CAS 360 would create a duplicate record because we will not assume that it is the same person, although it has the same address and the first name and last name matches. So these are the scenarios that you'll be able to pick in these Find Matches screens, and you'll be able to almost work backwards and fix up if you want to sort of, clean up your company's office side. And then from there on, import back into CAS 360. So you do have a few options there. Okay. Let's jump into a few other new features we've implemented. The next one is around directors' interests. So this was a feature that was requested by clients. Again, directors' interest was introduced earlier this year. If you haven't looked at directors' interest in your, once you select your company, directors' interest button is available under your officers section. So you have your directors' interest here. Again, director's interest, there's no quick way of getting the data into CAS 360. You will need to go through and manually key in the director's interest information. But the screens are pretty straightforward. You click on director's interest and then select add interest. And then you simply select the director name and then record the nature of interest. So let's say financial interest in XYZ Limited. And then you can put in a date commenced, date ceased as well. If there's a value as well, you can record that, and any additional details, you can record it as well. So it's pretty straightforward, but you just need to keep adding it in over and over because it is, just a data entry option. And then once you've recorded all the director's interest, you'll be able to view it in a sort of a summary form. So this is all the information I've added in, and then we'll also print out a director's interest register for you as well. As changes to the director's interest, one quick thing that we implemented was some clients informed us that some of the information that you're recording is quite repetitive for all the directors of the company. So what we've now added is, so you don't have to repeat the information, you can add multiple directors. So simply select the add another option here. And then you can record that information just once, but attach it to multiple directors. So that'll all display in your director's interest screen here. So that's a quick one there with director's interest. Next, let's have a look at some improvements we made around labels. So as you know, we have labels where you can use to group your companies or attach your and attach them to your company selection screen and your trust selection screens. So we've seen clients utilizing the labels quite a bit. And we've seen clients who have a huge list of labels, in your company selection screen. So a few releases ago, we did implement the search option for our labels. So if you've got a huge list here and you're not able to find the tag, you can simply hit the search option and type your details here, and then you can filter the columns or select the labels, which will filter the screen. So we've now implemented this search feature in a number of screens. The first one is we've implemented it in the annual return screen. Under annual returns, you'll now see a label filter and the search option to search the labels. Again, you simply search your, add in your text and search, and then you can select the label to filter that there. We've also added the label filters to your notifications. So your notifications bell here on your top right-hand corner, you have a label filter option here. So if you select that, you can now filter the notifications by labels, and that way you can only see the notifications that apply to those specific labels. So you can filter out all the other notifications that appears under your bell icon. So let's say I want to just see my BGL and my NZ alerts. And if I hit the apply button, you'll be able to see only those notifications that apply to these labels. You can also favorite those labels as well for your notifications. So if you select the star and it appears in yellow there, every time you go into your notifications, you'll only be able to see the your favorited labels in your notifications column. So you do have a few options that where you can favorite in your company selection, favorite separately to your annual returns, and then also your notifications as well. The next option is some improvements we've made around global documents. So with global documents, we do have options to filter your document screen and export those document lists as well. So if I go into my document screen here, in previous webinars and user groups, I have gone through how to set up those filters and how to use the filters in your document screen. Once you've filtered that information, what you can do is you have a few options here where you can export those documents as well. So a few releases ago, we implemented export documents list. So if you want to see all the documents that you have prepared for a specific company, you can export those documents in a list format. And also if you've used the filters as well, to filter the information, you can export that filtered list as well. So that will give it to you in a nice CSV format, just sort of a summary of this information on the screen. We also had requests where clients wanted to export the attachments out directly in one go. So instead of having to go into each one of these documents and then selecting attachments and then downloading each one of them one by one, a quick way to sort of extract all the PDFs or all the attachments that we have for each one of those records, you now have the options under the options menu here. You can select export company documents. So if you select that option, it will download all the attachments. It'll go into a little notification. And when you're ready, you can hit the download button, which will give you all the attachments in a zip file format for you to, send it out to your clients and so on. Also, if you've used the filters as well, if you only want a specific type, maybe perhaps the documents that have a specific status. For example, let's say all the documents that have a lodged status, or all the documents that have a sent to client status, you're able to filter the documents list and then export those documents only as well. So we have added a few options around there. The next new feature I want to go through are some of the changes that we've made around our AML compliance workflow. So a few releases ago, for our trust compliance workflow, if I jump into trust and go into my compliance tab, we've added source of funds to your trust compliance workflow, where you're able to attach your upload any supporting documents around your source of funds and attach any text around that as well. So that was always available to as a part of your trust compliance workflow. We've now included the source of funds option under your company compliance workflow as well. So if I go into a company and go into my compliance tab, you'll now see an extra step. So we've added step number 3 here to attach your source of funds. Now, this is not a mandatory step, but if you do have that information, you can toggle the option on and upload your supporting documents, perhaps financial statements and things like that for your company, and add in any additional text that you want to as well. So source of funds / source of wealth for that company can be recorded now as well. We've also added the option to export your compliance report directly from your compliance tab as well. So previously, clients needed to go into your report screen here and to print out a compliance report, which is sort of a summary of all the data that you have for that specific company, or the specific compliance tab, needed to be done directly from the report screen. Export, and I'll export to PDF. So that's a summary of all the data that I have for that company. So instead of having to go into the reports tab to prepare these summaries, there was a wish list request to add this directly to the compliance tab. So what we've now implemented is under your company compliance and your trust compliance, as you work through and add in your data, you now have you have the option to download that compliance report directly. So you click on download, and you'll be able to view that report. So all the information that you have recorded for that company. And then the last report that we've added or implemented earlier this year was the identity expiry report. So this is a good one here under the reports section. For all the identity data that you have recorded for your contacts, perhaps driver's license or passport expiries and things like that that you have in CAS 360, we do have in your filters section, we have AML alerts and we have contact identity document expiry. So we do have the alerts that show you that an identity is going to expire soon. However, this expiry alert is displayed 1 month before that identity is expired. If you would like to get in touch with your clients, let's say a couple of months before and say, John Brown, your identity is going to expire in another 6 months, and provide that additional service, you can run that report as well. So under the report section, under AML reports, we have identity expiry report. So if you go into that report, so this has all the contacts that have an identity attached in your database, and then you can also select what type of ID you want on that report. So if you only want to view contacts who have passports, you can select passport. You can also use set a date range as well. Let's say you want to see all the passports that's going to expire in the next 6 months, you can print off a report that way as well. So if I just hit export and either export to PDF or Excel, I'll be able to see all my contacts who have that specific IDs and then when they expired. So that's a useful report over there. So those are, I guess, all the key new features that we've implemented or that I wanted to go through for the webinar today. Let's have a look at some of the changes or improvements that we've added to BGLiD next. So I'm sure most of you have seen or been introduced to BGLiD before. BGLiD we've introduced or implemented at the start of this year. For those of you who are new to CAS 360, BGLiD is our very own identity verification service, and it's designed specifically and integrated directly into CAS 360. There's no setup cost that's required. It's directly linked to your CAS 360 contacts that you have in the contacts database. There's really no training that's almost required for BGLiD because it is quite straightforward, the entire workflow. You simply need to add in a credit card and then to your CAS 360 account or your BGL firm account, and then you'll be up and running for BGLiD. From a pricing side of things, we have two options. So there's the standard ID verification along with the PEP check will cost you $9. And then you've got the advanced check, which is the ID check, PEP check, and an adverse media check, which will cost you $12. There's no locked in price or anything like that. So basically you pay for the number of checks that you've done in a particular month. So it's pay as you go. So some changes that we have implemented or that we have coming soon is along with the ID check and the advanced check that I was talking about, just last week or 2 weeks ago, we implemented biometric scanning or biometric ID checks as well for BGLiD. And for New Zealand clients, this is currently available in beta, and you're able to do biometric checks for driver's license at the moment, and they will also cost $12. Now, if you do have, or if you would like to trial out biometric scans for driver's license, please get in touch with us and we can turn on biometric scanning for you so that you can trial it out before we go live next year. So just to show you how this works, I do have a little video for you. And I'll talk through the video so that you're able to sort of see how it works in CAS 360. So to start off with, we have two options. Sorry, I'll go back one step. So in the video here, you can see on our global contact screen, you have a number of buttons here. The blue button is your verify identity button that we had a couple of years ago as well. So the verify identity basically verifies the data that you have keyed into CAS 360. So let's say a client has given you the driver's license or passport information. You can just record that information under your compliance tab for the contact. And then using BGLiD, you're able to verify that data instantly. Step 2 is, let's say the client has not given you the information. However, you want to request your client to, add in their identity information so that you can verify that details. You can click on the request ID verification button there. Again, with the request ID verification button, you have two options. Option 1 is the client can manually just key in the identity information. So just do a data verification there. And option 2 is they'll have the biometric checks option where they have to scan their driver's license and take a picture and so on. So let's run through that workflow. So you would need to click on the screen and then toggle on biometrics option and then send the request. Now, CAS 360 will have an email already inbuilt into CAS 360. You can customize this email as you want. And then that will go across to your client. So that's sending off that email. And this is what your client will see. So this is sort of a sample of what your client will see. Again, this can be customized. So your client will need to click on verify identity and then follow the steps. So there's a two-step process here to proceed with your identity verification. So it'll send you an authentication code to your emails, and then you'll need to key that information in to start the biometric scanning. So you'll need to scan the QR code and then start that initial setup process. First, you will need to click on the consent buttons to make sure that you are proceeding. And then from here, you'll have two options. You'll have the driver's license option and a passport verification option. So as I said before, we're currently in beta phase for the biometric scanning for New Zealand clients. So you will only have driver's license available at this stage. So that you'll have to allow some access, just camera security and so on, and then you'll need to scan your driver's license details. So take a picture of the driver's license there, the front of that, and then you'll need to take a picture of the other side as well. And then the biometric scanning process would scan your documents to validate the information as well. This is validating that driver's license. Next, you'll need to take a picture. It'll take a quick picture and then it'll verify that picture that was just taken against the driver's license picture and the data. So it's pretty quick. You can see as soon as it's been verified, you'll receive that information on the screen. And then as soon as your client has submitted that information on their end, that information will appear in your CAS 360. So, and you'll receive a bell notification saying that person has verified that their identity, and you will be able to see if it passed or failed. So if you just click on the view icon, that will take you to your global contact screen. And in the global contact screen, you'll be able to see if it passed or failed. If it did fail, you can go into the evidence report and then investigate why it failed and so on. Now, if it did fail and you want to re-trigger that verification, you have a little arrow icon here where you can re-trigger that verification as well. And what we're also trying to implement is the picture that your client took can also now be imported into your global contact screen as well. So you'll be able to see that selfie that was taken as well. So those are some exciting changes that we've made around biometrics. So just to recap, it is currently available in beta for New Zealand clients, and driver's license are currently available. Just to quickly touch on New Zealand passports, there is a few steps that you need to follow before we can allow a New Zealand passport biometric verification. There are two forms that you will need to fill in. We will add this to a help file and sort of run through a process that you'll need to make it easier for you to sort of follow these steps. You will need to fill in a Centrix DIA form as well that will ask you questions around privacy policies that you have within your firm and so on. So you'll need to fill in that information. And there is another Centrix application form that you'll need to fill in through DocuSign as well. So we will, once a New Zealand passport biometric verification is ready, we will have a help file ready for you. And you'll need to follow the steps, fill in the two forms and submit those two forms. Once that process has been completed, you can get in touch with the BGL team and we can enable New Zealand passport biometric verification as well. So if you do have any questions or would like to trial it out, please get in touch with us. And then just to finish off the webinar today, We'll go through what we have lined up for the next few lined up for 2025. The first item on the screen is BGLiD biometric scanning. It's currently in beta. We would like to go live earlier in the year. And we also have AML second reviewer workflow. So currently our AML compliance workflow just runs through that initial or first reviewer, and you'll see that button right at the end saying second reviewer. So we want to complete that workflow as well. Next, we're also looking at detailed user permissions as well. So we really want to revamp our entire user roles sort of screen that we have, where you invite new users to CAS 360. So we want to work on detailed user permissions. We're also working on a brand new annual return workflow as well. So keep an eye out for that. Corporate tree has been on our wish list for a while as well. This is for those clients who really have a complex structure, and let's say you also manage the ultimate holding companies and all the subsidiary companies in CAS 360. If all that information is in CAS 360, and for us to be able to generate a nice little tree that sort of displays the entire structure. So we're working towards a corporate tree as well. And then CAS 360 UK release is also an exciting change that we have coming up as well. So currently CAS 360 is in beta in UK. We have about 25 accounting practices trialing out CAS 360. So we're hoping to go commercial in the new year as well. And we have so many more exciting changes sort of planned for 2025 as well. Thank you everyone for your time today, and I hope you found this session useful. My details are on the screen if you do need to reach out to me directly. But if not, have a lovely day, and we will see you again next time. Thank you.